Hey everyone, I'm Tassinix, and welcome to Plotting and Scheming, covering Season 67, 5 versus 5 Grand Arena Championship. This is the preview episode going into Week 1. As always, the show is focused about the top 100 or thereabouts of Kyber 1, and I am joined by my regular co-hosts, Dagger, TJ, Sasha Aisha, and Fatal. Gentlemen, pleasure to have you here. We just wrapped up doing the recording for the Scorch video. I think most, if not all of us, have him for Week 1, and we'll see how it is. And that is one of our topics today. But that's the
Can I
news
just
that's
correct
fit
you?
to
I just
print.
want to correct you on one thing. I'm going to call this Order 66 version 2 since we have all of our LV and we just got out of season 66. So this is 66 version 2.
I see.
We live in the world of
I like
Vader.
it. I've been I think we need an intro song, and I'm throwing my hat into the ring of welcome to our PNS. Come and see our PNS. Come enjoy our PNS.
I mean, I'll tell
Well,
you
it's
what.
technically
You
TAS's.
want to commission it? This could be one of those things where you go ahead and you get it commissioned. You find somebody that writes the score, and if it's one of those things where the lyrics are horrifying and embarrassing, but the song's melody, its beat, its bass, its whatever is just banging, just inescapable, I'm fine with it. We'll run it.
Now, can I ask,
Just
can
wanted
we
to make
do
sure
like
that
the
was
Six
on.
Flags?
I just wanted to make sure
Right.
this was on the stream.
Right.
That way,
And also, can we do
are
like the
obligated.
Six Flags music? Like, and Tass is dancing there.
Don't push your luck.
And
Don't push your luck.
Yeah.
You can't have everything.
Oh, okay.
Or at least not without additional bargaining.
I was gonna say without the hype train.
Anyways, guys, thank you all for being here. Dagger, you and TJ already spoke. Folks want to be sure they can identify you guys by their voices.
Really quick update. Really quick update since I've gotten a few questions about this. Recovery's going well.
This is Dagger,
not
the voice of
in
Dagger.
minimal pain. Really, no one's going to confuse the guy gargling rocks for anybody else on this panel.
Fair.
But anyway, recovery's in full swing. Everything should be good here in a couple weeks. Thanks for everybody who asked. I will do my best to get back to the DMs, thanking you all individually. Just wanted to give the update here.
I just want to make sure. I'm glad to note that Dagger's back to being waterboarded. The world is right.
That's right. Yes, it has been a while.
You don't have the worst audio for the first time in a long time.
Longtime fans of the show know that it's only a relatively recent development that Dagger got himself a desktop computer with a proper microphone and all that. For a long time, our man joined from a Bluetooth headset on his phone and basically sounded like he was surviving being waterboarded while recording the show. So good on him. And getting back to your roots, Dagger, I appreciate you. Good to, and thank you, TJ, for reminding us. Fatal, how you doing today?
Doing all right. Kind of decompressing from a decently stressful GAC lock.
Rambling with.
Did you get everything locked in though, Fatal?
I ripped out a bunch of shit that was like non-essential, but like if someone posts gas against me, I'll be like emotionally devastated that I can't just like bounty hunter that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. It was just just kept on adding stuff, and then there was like an hour left to lock, and then you reach the point where you're like, okay, I just have to start compromising. Instead of adding friction, I'll lubricate things. So I was just like, all right, rip out armor targets, rip out bulk targets, rip out few characters and teams. Get across the finish line.
Glad you got it done. All right, and Sasha, how about you? How you doing today?
Yeah, doing well. I successfully signed up for GAC, so I feel like the last week was a productive one. I did my usual and took the week off from the game
for round 1 of this week, dude.
That means you're sweating out banners from moment 1.
Our man.
Unfortunately, the top bracket, there are 4 Erodiums again. So I have an Erodium
that means I
week
must
1.
not be in bracket 1, right? I didn't even. Yep, number 9. Sure than shit. Appreciate. Yep, this is exactly what I expected. Yep. Fantastic. Well, gotta duke it out, man. It is what it is. Shout out to CG. All right, guys. Lots to talk about today. First up, as always, week 1 preparations. So, new key datacrons, relics, remods. I offer myself up first. I did manage to get a couple more datacrons, a dark side with high tenacity and some protection for Night Sisters. I was kind of winging it with a less preferred cron, but now I have one in set 21 that I like. And then I wanted a bulk level 3 light side with high potency for gas, because I really hadn't been able to post gas on defense for want of potency. So there you go. Aside from that, I think I had everything I needed level 9 wise, so it's a couple redundants. Character wise, though, of course, remodding, Scorch and Disguise Clone Trooper. Yeah, in the end, because of how Scorch's kit ended up working and the way his AI works, which we will talk about, I ended up deciding to make him really, really fast. So that's an option I went with. Of course, I saved a Relic 9 for Scorch. And yeah, that's about it. Just little tightening up on a couple small things. So those are the big moves for me. Dagger, how about you? What did you prep here for week 1?
I have a bunch of unrerolled datacrons that I'm going to react this week to. So I built a bunch of just generic level 9s to use. And I'm going to see how I want to re-roll them based on how I use my teams and what I want to use them against. As far as roster progression goes, I got an 80 on my polls. So
nice.
R9 Scorch. So yeah, it's basically just been farming slicing materials because I have 450 mods in my inventory ready to work on. Well, not all of them need to be worked on, right? But I'm just saying, like, I'm pretty close to the cap, so it's all just been nothing but farming slicing materials.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So not. But I guess what I'm saying is not a whole lot of roster progress for me, but there should be an explosion in mods and datacrons for next week, based off of, again, lots of mods I haven't developed because I don't know what I'm going to be doing with the clones yet. Based off, and you get what I'm trying to say. Like, I'm going to my mods and datacrons are going to react to this week.
Fair. All right, TJ, how about you? What you got cooking here for week 1? Your preparations.
Yeah, I got Dagger beat by bad polls on the new Scorch. He scorched the shit out of my crystals as I pulled. The highest thing was a 10. And so I spent, as the Thanos would say, everything making sure. But I got a Relic 9 for him, and then kind of built out how I wanted the team to go. As far as adjustments, I just took a lot of the things to make sure that we have for 3s and put it back into 5s. Make sure my dash and my, the dash and the Bamro line, and then did a couple of other nuances that we weren't using the last time we were here.
Okay. No other datacrons that you had to shore up for the...
No, I was just tweaking out some of the numbers where there was a lower roll and just adjusting maybe more armor pen crit damage on some of the other ones. Making sure I had, 75% bulk, meaning 75% of my crons were bulked whenever they came in. So the light side is, I feel like that's going to hold more weight right now. Any of the dark side ones, obviously, Sid's probably not going to have a big place here, but just making sure that some of the other Sith ones are pretty well set up.
Okay. All right, Sasha, Aisha, how about you? Your preparations here for week 1.
Like really precious little. I did get Scorch up to snuff, like R9 and everything unlocked and loaded for this. I always like to do that for the last character in a new squad that's introduced. That's and really like no changes on datacrons because I go so hard early on. I just kind of coast from there, but Yeah, really. I guess I remodded Tarkin a bit. I did not take Tarkin had been at R8. I did not, or maybe he was at R7. I took him to R8, but I did not go to R9 yet. But I kind of expected nothing else for the raid. I'll most likely do that. And I put less crappy mods on Tarkin. Not that I necessarily expect to use them in fives, but one of the things that was in sort of the back of my head was like, if there was a bunch of rumblings about vulnerabilities that the LV clone team has out there, whether it's Mothma or some self-destruct under against BKM. I was thinking, well, maybe I just rolled Tarkin and clones out there for for the hell of it, and an old school LV thing for a round or two. So that made me think Tarkin was at least investing a little in. But that's all I did.
Okay, fair enough. And Fatal, last but not least, I know you alluded to earlier that you had quite a bit, changed up here for this season. What you got?
Yeah, so things are weird. Like it's a weird contrast where simultaneously there's a bunch of stuff that seemed like it would be fun to tinker with and work on, but also the whole time that I've been doing this, I can't escape the feeling that the just sheer amounts of cheese that Set 21 enables is probably just going to wipe out a lot of it. But I don't know. It was fun to think about like Afra on defense. Seems like there's a lot of moving parts there and things that you could choose and try and tinker with. Grievous, I think, will potentially have a decent season, although I don't know what exactly to target yet, but there's just so much destructive power there that I really have to imagine that it will hook in somewhere. I wasn't able to get it in for this lock, but I imagine that some of y'all might be in a position to do it. But the Zalbar Omicron plus FDC possibly represents a new team with the infinite stacking jihadi damage. That like might be an offensive tool. Now, do you need that offensive tool? I don't really know, but like maybe it could possibly like represent an undersize against like the right. People try to cheap
I
out
used
too
it
much.
versus gas last season.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. But yeah, no, I was just doing a bunch of tinkering and trying to. I don't know. It just ended up being a fresh min-max coat of paint on a lot of. Like the list grew out to like 30 or 40 people. It's like, oh, we gotta get you in. Oh, closer to the season. Oh, separatists. Oh, Bad Batch. Oh, like it just kept on going and going and going. But like, I don't know, man. Like, I put a bunch of elbow grease on Amidala just to like update for set 21 and make sure the modding was all correct. But like, there's specters hanging over that team. There's specters hanging over a hell of a lot of teams that. It feels like the best hope for defensive holds right now is people feeling overly uncertain for something that otherwise has a clear answer, but like they think they need to save it for something else, even though they don't.
Hmm.
Like it feels like bottom front wall is kind of like the only land for opportunities right now. Just like try to exploit some fear or just force a weird mistake. Because the moment that they reveal last 7 teams, it should all just like snap into place of like, okay, this there, boom, 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 done.
All right. Well, yeah, you were definitely busy here getting ready. I'm looking forward to seeing how the streams go for that. With that note, guys, let's jump into the first main topic off this. Set 21 focus datacrons. Do we have any plans for offbeat uses for the focus datacron? Now, Dagger, I know you had a thought, or you were talking about, I think a couple of you were also talking about other uses for the Zalbar cron. It'll just not an offbeat, like a punch up use.
Yeah. I think Ahsoka, Leia, and Lord Vader all gain a lot of value from that cron. I'm not saying you have to use it there, but 80% health and 100% defense is like, those are real, stats.
And it still is the
And
case that is the only Datacron in the game right now with defense on it.
yeah, and I'm not saying the card team can't beat things. Because, as I said, I've used it to beat things with and without the Datacron. Not amazing things. The ceiling is like gas, I guess. Maybe the ceiling is something else. But I don't feel like I need that, if that makes sense. So I'm not sure where I'm going to employ it. But I'm going to, when I go to look at what I'm going to be setting on defense, I'm going to pretty much evaluate every team on whether or not the Zalbar Kron will be better than that, than the current Kron I want to set on them.
Fair.
I've got Ray too. Like Ray, Leia, Ahsoka, Lord Vader. It's like, how many of your GLs want 80% health, 100% defense?
Right. Yeah. All likely candidates to be on defense. So, fair thought. Who's
Also,
next?
to what Fatal was saying, it's like Sana's going to be beating a lot of the Leias, right? It's where we're back into this, like, there are going to be people who, I'm probably going to be one of them multiple times, who doesn't use a counter that will work because they're like, oh, I want to, set this thing on defense, or oh, I want to do X, Y, or Z, and you'll lose a fight because you want to get cute. But really, like, I feel like we're in a meta where if you can one shot your opponent's Lord Vader, whether it be Mon Mothma or BKM, because Lord knows they're probably not patching this in the next 48 hours, and then it's weekend, so. This round, I feel like, is pretty safe to Mon Mothma or BKM Lord Vader's, unless CG comes out and like acts faster than I think they've ever acted before, right?
So my understanding is, I mean, we can, I'd like to circle back around to this because it's going to tie in with our discussion about the new full Lord Vader team. But I guess it's at least worth, mentioning in passing here that my understanding is just putting in the Afrocron with Doubt would certainly shut down Mon Mothma. You put that with the Lord Vader.
Yeah, but then that would open it up for BKM. Like,
yes,
totally open it up for
it
BKM.
exactly would do that.
And
However,
that's what I'm trying to.
I've heard of people dropping out Scorch and Riva being put in instead. You lose the uniformity benefit for having all dark side clones and Lord Vader, but I believe that doesn't have the same glaring holes. Sorry, you were going to say?
Well, I've also heard that people are beating that Riva version with BKM as well. So I don't know.
Okay.
Because the bonuses you lose take the pressure off of you.
Fair.
So again, the point I'm trying to make is we're in this like weird limbo until CG decides exactly what they're going to do. Where I think week 1 there's going to be a lot of SOK on defense, because I feel like he's actually like a better defensive team than Lord Vader right now until they fix this. So the whole point I'm trying to make is I expect to see a lot of GLs on defense week 1 because so many of the GLs. So it's either you place like 6 or 7 GLs or you place like 1 or 2, right? If placing that 3 or 4 is kind of dead when we have a bunch of different like GL assassins hanging out with these Datacrons. Like Fatal was saying, like we just have the ability for so many of these teams to just punch up multiple levels just because there isn't any defense. And there's so much armor pen and crit damage and stacking offense on the current sets.
Mm-hmm. Fair. To the rest of the room, then, other offbeat plans, the focus Datacrons. I mean, I was thinking about that Afra thing myself. It had occurred to me to use with the light side DLs. I really don't think I'm, looking to set the DR Zalbar team on defense at all. And using it on offense may just not be necessary.
Why would you set DR Zalbar?
So you really fucking
right.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. My brain is still kind of locked into 3 versus 3. Fair point.
Right.
Fair point. Yeah.
For all my opponents,
Yeah,
say you set DR Zalbar per Tassinex's
recommendation. You can't say.
If I see you and you do it and you don't do it, you don't listen. You're not a true fan. Right. He said so.
Shout out, you can't say. I know you'll be. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, if there's nothing else on, offbeat uses of the focus Datacrons.
I think Hera. I know I was talking about it, but I still think Hera has a good place.
With like
Some interesting pieces to it.
Ahsoka.
Not Hera's team. No. I think the Hera's team is cool and novel, and I'm a fan of Phoenix,
Mhm.
and it's got the use there, but there's not enough.
Yeah, the
There's not
TM
enough
plus the offense
space.
plus the health,
Yeah, that's
right?
literally. It's
The
like
combo
there's
of
unique
that.
stats to the piece, which is cool. That's where I think it is. I would love to say Phoenix are back, and now we've got full fives and Krex there for it. But even as much as I love it, it's no.
It's
But the
not gonna happen.
stats with
Yeah.
the 25, no man. But now you might find a place to do it, but it's just like again, as Dagger called it, where's its ceiling? And
Yeah.
its ceiling
Well,
is
we just have
fortunately
so
not going
much
to be
stuff. We have
high.
so much stuff that's better than that. That by the
That's the
time,
problem.
yeah.
But the 25% with the offense piece, like it was novel in threes when you had it. I think that'll still hold for some interesting mechanics here, possibly.
The weird thing about it is, I wouldn't be surprised if it does end up that it can do something solid. But when I think of Phoenix, they already didn't really have trouble not dying.
Right.
Like they had that pretty effectively unlocked. The thing that the team misses the most is damage output and is dispel. And it's like what, like it gives like Ezra middle some extra true damage or whatever if it dispels. But for the most part, that Datacron doesn't boost their lethality or their utility at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, it kind of leaves them in a weird spot where it's kind of just like Phoenix, but more so.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess the one exploitable
hence
thing.
it's not on team.
The one
Yeah,
exploitable thing on
the Phoenix
offense
team.
being that the AI will target non-tank sides where possible, and then your Kanan effect gains value, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the other problem with the Phoenix team is that the Phoenix team is hi, I see you don't have a use for Krex. And I feel like he just has so many uses right now where it's like
Right.
I just don't know if I would I just don't
It
know.
does feel like a painful trade-off. Yeah,
So
having to lose
Yeah,
Frex
that
from
being
other.
said,
That said, Heracron actually likely to see use with either Leia or Ahsoka, practically. Yeah.
Bray could have some fun there with it if it's not
yeah,
doing. If you're not putting
if you're doing
Sauna
like
there, yeah.
yeah, I was about to say the only problem with the Ray. Sorry, you were about to get there, but sorry, TJ. I was going to say yeah.
No, you're
The
good,
only
man.
I would question it on Ray because I think Ray Sana is going to be the opening meta
Yeah.
for Ray on defense. But I think if
Yeah.
you're going to revert back to like Ezra or like some Zeris comp, like Zeris GK, like whatever, I think that this Kron could be very good to get you out in front of like Mara Jade and Starkiller. Or Malicos more, so you can lap them. But outside of that, I think it's. I wonder how this actually. I wonder how this works on like like Ahsoka. I wonder what the Ahsoka team looks like with the preloaded turn meter. I wonder if that
Yeah.
really nerfs. I wonder if that can like put a hamper in like BKM or one of the off counters there. Because I feel like Ahsoka with Ezra doesn't have a lot of counters this season.
And this was tested out previously, but as far as order of operations goes, before Exile goes out to the rest of the non-Ezra sides, the turn meter would be gained. So Ahsoka and everybody but Ezra would gain the 25% turn meter before all
Yeah.
the other sides gain Exile. So that is a
And
thing.
then Hera gets to pop up. And then Hera gets to pop that fracture way earlier.
Yeah, nasty stuff. So worth considering for sure.
I didn't mean to trample on you, TJ, there, but
No, you're in the right spot. That's my point, right? It's like this one feels like this is a great cron, but for this team. Are you going to use it for your directed team? Well, it's probably not likely. Just because, again, we're in super team status. So you've only got 11 teams to face. So I don't think a Heracrex is really going to come out as a strong point against your Super Ahsoka or the Super Raysana or any of the things you're going to do. It's just not enough. As I think
especially if Lord Vader starts cannibalizing Reba.
it's just there's so many pieces to it where it's like it's just not going to hold water because what are you doing? Yeah, you're going to loop a team, but the team's not going to care.
Team beat consistently. That's one of those big teams that the Phoenix beat consistently, though, was Inquisitors. So if Reva goes to Lord Vader, then it's like, all right, the value of me holding this or planning for this is even lower still.
Yeah, because
I mean, that's not for us specifically, but I'm talking for people who are like a little bit lower than us, right? Like
that's not
necessarily a top 100, top 200 type or one.
To make it as a simpler statement, there is no world where you get to do anything Phoenix in this cron without Krex. Krex agreed has a higher calling in other places to do more things against far more formidable teams. Then this is going to be the hold for the Inquisitors that are coming out when Malgus was pretty safely beating that anyway, and doesn't require you to pull a key piece for a lot of what's going to happen.
And is equally as kind of doo-doo on defense these days.
That is not a defensive team. You should be ashamed of yourself.
Not equal to Phoenix, equal to like Inquisitors on defense, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I
got you there.
Mm-hmm. Particularly good on defense.
You know, but before we wrap up this topic, we didn't really talk about the Dad Bod Boba cron. I think few and far between will be the opportunities to actually use the duo on offense for anything. So, stat stick, and if so, where? Any early candidates jump out at you?
My initial issue is that it has both pens on it and a ton of crit chance. So it's like, where do I want to put this? I mean, I could almost see putting this on a queen team just for like maximizing damage output. But sure. I don't know. It feels too unfocused.
Oh, I agree.
For me.
I agree.
Where
it's
I don't
kind of
know
hard
where
to find a home for. I mean, that's a very open question.
Yeah, so like I said, Queen, like if you're just looking for a team with mixed attackers who wants a ton of crit chance and who wants a bunch of crit damage and who wants a bunch of like both pens, that pops to mind. Qui-Gon maybe, or Beck maybe. Like I don't know. Like I'm just struggling. Like so it's like all these teams that I don't plan on posting would be great with this cron. Like if you're using Queen on offense, I think that this cron would be amazing.
I hate to say it, I'll probably try against Saw again. What does it add? Adding 3 more characters change on the fight if you're going to add the same thing. So it may not be that, maybe something else, but I will probably still end up trying it, depending on how much of a hair up I get my ass to. It's just as is. It's not a bad setup to try to take out something, and at a minimum, you're posting a Saw team or the likes, or you're trying to save it for Lord Vader or whatever. But it's like a Saw-esque level of punishment is there. There could be room to still try to use just the duo.
I think you might have merit to try it, but my thing is, I think we know from last season that Saw was super effective on offense against Queen, and Queen remains for still most people in our neighborhood a staple defense. So I'm still thinking Saw is mostly on offense for me.
The Super Cron still feels like a Super Cron.
The other problem too, you have to remember, is that if Dad Bod does work, that team just won't be on defense. So
that's why I think
it won't be on defense then for 2 reasons.
That's the thought.
Yeah.
But you don't lose anything, right? And that's my thought right now. But that's still, if it doesn't work, Saw then becomes one of the strongest teams on defense, hands down. You'll find something that's going to kill a Queen. If the one effective tool doesn't beat it now, and now you're putting it back, what Fado really looked forward to, and what I would still call is one of the best cron-based setup teams in a world where the Chi didn't beat it, that's on defense. Hands down, if you're not doing that because it's going to beat a Queen, I think you're making a mistake. If, again, post week 1, we see what it looks like. That has a higher calling, especially when you get to add more characters to the punch. And they're putting out, it's like, you want to talk about a Krex going somewhere? Putting out that debuff you can't hit, and that's going 10%. That's amazing. Pushing the team up to be a next level, doing the cheeky thing that Fatal would do with the Drogon in the team, and that pushes up the damage. That there's a lot more to play with on that team to be a lot more utility knife, doing a lot more differences because you pull one team and it does so much more.
Sure.
I'm not really suggesting it.
Sorry.
I'm not really suggesting it, but this team would be incredibly funny on Java if like Afra FDC didn't exist. Like imagine Night Sisters against this shit, and every time they get defeated, everyone gets Bounty Hunters Resolve, including Java. Like the damage stats are good for Bausch. Crit.
That's
Okay.
actually fantastic. I love that.
Okay.
I'm kind of just upset that you brought it up. That's something you keep in circle. Fatal. You don't give that to the public. This is. I feel like you needed to tag Steam Team. It's just rude.
Well, I'm telling you, Set 21 is this bizarre case of like there's so much sauce, and then it, like it just like counters itself, and it's just like here's some cool shit, and here's why it doesn't matter. Like, what are we doing? Just cut it in half.
It's also another one of this crime would look great, but man, this would be cool in another place.
Fair.
This should just be like two sets. You have like the cool stuff, and then you had the cheese stuff in a different set, and then you just never release that other set. I think that would be good.
Very good.
That's
Very
fantastic.
good. All right. Well, appreciate you guys on that one. Next item here, the moment we've really all been waiting for. It's time to talk about the new Lord Vader clones team in full, now featuring Scorch, our newest tank. Now, we did just wrap up the character kit review on Scorch, and we did have a fairly rigorous discussion on our thoughts about mods. I know I want to bring us back into some of that, guys. You'll recall that I was saying, this is all just very early days here. We had, 3 hours from the time that you could first unlock them until you're locked in for Grand Arena for week 1. So nobody's deeply researched in this yet. Everybody kind of had to plant a flag somewhere and see where it's going to lead them. I decided to go with full defense sets, protection, and then a potency cross. And the only reason to go for that, I tried to, and I also took on some potency secondaries besides getting to about 99%. You'll see in a second, but I wanted to get value out of this first special, which is otherwise kind of just a wet blanket of an ability. So the only way it's really ever going to do anything that matters at all is if these debuffs land, and I'm not sure this is the right way to do it. I'm not sure 99% potency is enough, but we made it decently fast. Just under 80% armor, 79.2. Pretty decent setup. And then as far as turn order goes, guys, so because there isn't, we know about the AI behavior of Scorch, that it's going to do the second special, the Bulwark ability on its first turn, then there's no kind of game to be played with stacking up dots ahead of Disguised Clone Trooper going with its first turn, and it'll drop its AoE bomb and all of that. Nice stuff, but no bones to it. So I ended up speeding him way back up to about 360, so now he'll be 400 under Lord Vader. Maintained the life total of 200,000. I wanted to see if I could do that. And then, just under, here we are at 59% armor and 11.1k special offense with 20% special crit chance. So, nothing to rely on in terms of critting, but as far as his AoE goes, it means about 1 out of the 5 targets should get crit. It's better than nothing. There might be a case to be made for a different primary, but that's kind of what I was thinking here. Nothing changed in terms of CX2 over Oppo, and then, of course, Scorch bringing in the rear. What do you guys have to say? I guess first about Scorch, and then, the team overall.
My Mama beats you. Fuck you guys.
I do like
Thank you.
that
Thank you,
an hour and 19 minutes, and I'm going to time it this way. An hour and 19 minutes after the character was released, we had 3 hours to lock, but there was already an investigation for the interactions. So I take the notification and the premise that option is there.
Mm-hmm. Go on. Continue.
Oh, it's just like we're all worried about it. Everybody's concerned with their investment. They're looking at the full aspect of it. So what they did say, anything comes up, they're going to check on it. There's unintended interactions that if you go watch the other video, whenever it comes out, Fatal called it out, that are being made aware of outside of Mon Mothma. with Datacrons there, we had, I think, a pretty good discussion on where it's going to line up, how we'll be able to work with the team. So I think we're going to get week 1 data, and in lock, God willing, they'll make the update, and it will include the lock, but we'll never know. But I don't see that they let this stand this long to be. Yeah, Mount Mothman beats it. That is not the staple team with the bespoke that they're going to hold the setup.
And to be clear, Mon Mothma without her Kron is a lot more dodgy.
Yeah, I just don't
you
see
don't
it.
have
I don't see it.
And if you're R5s, and your R5s might time out.
I'm still gonna go on the side of, for them to come out an hour after the character came out.
I'm saying they should fix it. I'm simply pointing out that, like, don't just go in and automatically think that your out of the box Mon Mothma team is going to shit stomp this team. Is all I'm trying.
I'm not even gonna comment on it for them coming out an hour. That's what I think is my point of reference for the whole setup.
I mean,
is that
it's just like the
I
bug
lean
with
on them.
BKM, and like I think they're going to let the Sana team keep beating it because it's a Datacron that's going to rotate. I don't think they'll do much to change that, but yeah, Mon Mothma won't be beating this next week.
Yeah, that's the takeaway. Like, and maybe this BKM thing too, because it sounds very much unintended. Now, we mentioned that in the other video, and Fatal, I don't expect you to go through that explanation twice of exactly how that bug works, but essentially, it's as if an invisible hand is smiting Scorch whenever another ally does something to an enemy. It's a reasonable summary, and that's the issue specifically when this team is matched up against a BKM.
The squad effectively causes Scorch to kill himself. Yeah.
Real neato.
The one thing I will say, I have not had a chance to like go track down conversations at events. The bug was found via Barbarossa sandbox testing, which has historically been pretty good for like detecting bugs early. But there was like there was some weirdness with the recording this time that I can't say for sure that like it's a true in-game bug. I saw Meat asking to see if anyone could record early or whatever, but I think it would be safe to operate under the assumption that that will just be true week 1 until proven otherwise.
Okay. Fair enough. So what did you end up, landing while we got you on the horn here? As far as turn order, anything wildly different from what I've done?
I mean, CX, you want CX to be above Oppo and Nightfall. I made Disguise Trooper like pretty fast. Scorch, I don't think his speed matters too terribly since he kicks everyone above him. So I just picked 290 as a random arbitrary number.
But your Disguised is still out in front faster than CX2 or somewhere else?
Yeah, he's out in front.
Okay. Fair enough. How about you, Sasha? What did you end up landing on for Scorch and for your turn order for your team? Anything kind of different than the room consensus?
No, nothing really different. I went Disguised as fast as CX next, Oppo. And then I my Scorch is not particularly fast. I didn't really optimize him for speed at all. It was primarily a focus on his defense.
20. Yeah. All right. Dagger, I don't think you mentioned it here. If you did, it certainly got cut off while you were busy being, head under the water for a period of time. But I think you mentioned in our previous recording the speed and tenacity you might go with, or full tenacity, because he does start with taunt, but he doesn't start with bulwark, meaning that he could still get stunned or ability blocked or otherwise locked down ahead of that special. So share more on that.
Yeah, so number 1, his AI leads with the taunt. So because he leads with the taunt and it's a 4-turn cooldown, it means like you gotta take 4 more turns, like obvious man here. So in order to try to maximize that, I went with speed and tenacity, and I think again, I didn't gut anything or tear anything up to do this, but I got him to around 100.
You got
He's
him around
180%
to
tenacity.
You got him around to static noises. Try again.
All right, I got him around to about 190, 195 tenacity
Mhm.
after his bonuses,
Wow, yeah.
and like 335 speed ish.
Okay.
So I will, depending on how this all works out, I might lean more into tenacity, or more into speed. But I think he is kind of a utility character on this team, and I really don't like the idea. Like, obviously, yes, okay, if you have an unadjustable stun, like, sure, whatever, you can have it. But I really just want him to take his turns and click his buttons. And I know Fatal has said that tanks don't really get to click their buttons nowadays, and that's true for the most part. But I think this tank really wants to click that button specifically as many times as possible, and I'm willing to put in the effort to see how many times I can get him to hit that button. Because I don't think his mods matter a ton. Once he gives himself bulwark, his like defense stats are, I don't want to say less relevant, but he becomes much harder to kill once he clicks that button. So getting him to be able to click that button initially is important.
Right, yeah, he'll gain those 10 stacks of bulwark there. Be a big boy at that point. All right.
That was my thought process behind it. And if I wanted to optimize, just dinking around, I didn't assign it, but I could get him to 340 and 220 tenacity after the bonuses.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I know I was able to get him to about 345 when I toyed around in a speed defense set earlier. So if I looked at tenacity, I expect I should still be able to hit around 340 plus. But so you're saying, if you're going to do this speed build, shoot for a floor of 340.
Well, no, that was just what I could hit. I don't know what you should hit. You get 40 speed from his unique. Does he give speed up to clones?
Well, we're just talking about his modded speed, so we're not talking about anything else. This is just for that purpose.
No, but what I'm saying is you're looking at what his actual turn order speed is going to be. Right? It's not about what you're only using him in one place, and that's with Lord Vader. So when you're looking at how fast you want him to be, you have to figure out like because doesn't Apo give him turn meter as well?
No,
I don't think so.
I'm aware.
I think the only reason we're talking about speed is just for the reason you mentioned earlier, is to potentially get one extra use out of Entrenched, out of his second special.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what you would shoot for. I would say, because this is on a GL team, I'm just kind of walking down the order.
Oh, sure, yeah.
I would say you probably want him in your fastest tenacity 2-piece, and then probably like somewhere between like the 7th and 10th best speed set.
Okay, I got you.
So what that ends up being for you? If you're planning to lean into this speed thing. Like, he's not one of those where you put the speed on him like, haha, I guess he's fast. It's like, no, you're making him like extra fast for a reason. But I think that there are like 6 to 9 people that you probably want faster than him, or have a better speed set on him.
Yeah.
So I don't like to give numbers, but I think 340 is like a good place for someone like us to settle or try and beat.
Someone around,
But I don't like giving
our
out
neck
like
of the woods, and people can scale down from there. That's fair.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, TJ, did we get your thoughts already?
No, just because we went right into the problem child, the whole thing in the room. So right now, I'm just keeping mine low to the ground, keeping my turn order that I think is correct for the team as the overall. And then right now, I have him the fastest. So in that place, he's going first out of anybody else to kind of get himself going. I have him 350 right now. And I'm just leaning into the protection up aspect of things. So high health, fastest guy. Again, that's more to come, I think, post week 1, and also post the CG do anything or change anything that makes him like, now he needs to be here or anything like that. So.
Oh, for sure. Okay. All right. I think that covers everybody's initial thoughts. Yeah, I didn't make any other substantial changes over the week for that team. I might look to improve Lord Vader a little more, try and see if I can tack on bit more speed and offense. Still about 570 speed, 11.5K, and then just a ton of survivability. So we'll definitely be monitoring the performance here over the season. All right, guys, that wraps that one up. I don't think we had any other new topics from you guys, so I think we can move right on in to the patron questions. A good handful here. All right, first one up from Anja. What off-meta counters are you planning on relying on this season? Say for my part, that's going to be highly dependent on the opponent. To say that I'd rely on off counters means that I'd have to be fighting somebody like, I don't know, my first round opponent this season. You can't say. Somebody who's going to set a relatively light defense and save the house for attack. So that means that if I'm going to snag him up at all, I'd have to set a lot and hope that it would cause him some discomfort, meaning that I'll have to use lesser teams to clear on offense. That's about it as far as circumstances where I could see myself using off meta counters. And by off meta, I mean, I don't know, punch up use for a non GL, I suppose, against a GL. Like you would call like a Seer Malicos counter to Lord Vader, for example. Not saying that that works, but that I would consider to be an off meta counter, even though it takes a million Omicrons. What do you guys think on that question?
I think if people want to see other people using off-meta counters, they should stop posting teams from 2018.
Fair.
I think the definition of off counter is really loose, because when people used to say off counter, they used to mean like, JKR Gas JKL versus Ray, or Darth Vader versus Ray, or Gas Fives versus SOK. Right? That's what people used to mean when they said off counter. So when I hear off counter in my head, I'm like, I don't use off counters. I use hard counters. Right? Like I don't know what we consider off counter, or is
Whatever you would
Zori
consider
versus
to be an
Jabba an
off
off
counter.
counter?
Whatever, I mean, you can interpret that expansively. Whatever
No,
you would consider.
but that's what I'm outlining here. I'm saying, like, I consider things like Zori versus Jabba an off counter. You're doing it because you want to and you feel the need to, not because you want to. That's how I view off counters. Off counters are like, we have too many triple Omi teams. Like, is Balin an off counter to a GL? No, because he's basically a GL. You get what I'm trying to say? Like, Starkiller is not an off counter to Ray. He's a GL in GAC. Right?
Fair.
So in the spirit of like how I interpret the question, I don't really plan to use any off counters, but I suspect the question was asked in the sense of, what non-GLs are you planning to use versus GL? I suspect that was the question that was the question as it was meant.
Fair.
Because that's how it makes sense as it's asked to us.
And do you
And I
have
would
any
say,
such
I think
plans?
Starkiller. Yeah, I mean, I plan to try Starkiller versus Ray again this season. I think that unless it's turn meter plus Ezra, I think you're going to be fine. And then if they do that, then their Ahsoka sucks because they're doing like the Malik Watt thing. And I don't think that team's good. I think Seer could be used versus Ray. I don't personally like that as much because I like posting it. And then obviously, if you don't put Ezra on your Ahsoka, you have plenty of off counters that you can use there. But I finally got Marin modded for tenacity. So I think if I see a Jabba, I'm going to try to give Night Sisters a try, the 4-man, because I used a couple of people's Night Sisters as a template, and I think I have them in a spot where I can 4-man a Jabba, and I kind of want to just try doing it. So as far as off counters that I'm going to try, I'm going to say that one. Like, from my definition, that would be an off counter. I'm going to do it because I want to, not because I have to. Or do it because I have to, not because I don't know. Sorry, I'll pass it on. I think I made my point a little clear here. I don't plan to use many.
Yeah, I'm not going in with any like really like preordained for it, but like one example that I think will probably be pretty common this season is people finding uses for Queen Amidala on offense. You know, it's one of those almost sort of like dictated by Saw being so darn effective against it, and QA being, I guess, well, I don't know if it's an off meta, but like, you know, it's a non GL squad that does extremely well against a bunch of different GL comps. And so, like, that's one. It's not like a specific matchup that I'm planning on hunting out. I just think it's generally going to be there in like my in most cases. I don't know. I'll certainly try and keep opponents on their toes and maybe have QA in the back sometimes. But like, it's it's a nice one to have that I could see being like you know, an answer to one more GL that an opponent set on B than I was anticipating.
Fair. Yeah. Fatal, I know you probably have a lot to say on this topic, but you know, floor is yours on.
No, just I really enjoy Alpha Meta, but like there just aren't that many opportunities because people are so timid in the shit that they post. I'm like, yeah, how do you off meta a wall of like 4 scoundrel dodge squads? Like, I could.
Yeah. Where are you
I'll
starting out
go.
this season, rank wise?
I have no fucking idea.
Because I know
Hold
there,
up.
I only say that because there are certainly players out in the top 50 ish that are still going pretty light on defense, but there are a lot of players willing to commit a serious defense.
I audited the entire top 50
And you
like
weren't
a few months
impressed.
ago. Literally everyone was playing efficiency. I'm done. Okay. Holy shit. Yeah. I blew a bunch of rank last season. I'm down on like 200. Hell yeah.
Mm. All right. Yeah, then you probably are going to be fighting cheese lords of many kinds for some time. That's fair.
I don't know, man. My experience is the opposite. That the lower that I get, the more willing people are to not play efficiency.
Okay. That is not what I would
That
expect.
is also
Fair.
that has also historically been my experience because the people who are really good and know how to use their rosters don't want to take the risks a lot of the time, like he was saying. So lower down, one of the reasons they're lower down is that they are slightly lower skilled, but they're willing to take the risks and they fail on those risks. So yes, my experience is also the higher you go, the less is on defense.
Okay. Fair.
On average.
Fair. All right. Next question. Let's see, another one here from Banja. What mod set do you feel you are in shortest supply of? That is to say, which set do you need the most and have not enough to go around? For my part, I finally hit a critical mass where I had been doing a whole bunch of other sets instead of offense for quite some time. Defense, crit chance, crit damage, a little venture into tenacity, speed, time to time over the last several months. And my chickens have come home to roost in that I am down to really garbage offense mods that I'm seeing myself needing to equip on really important characters in the near future. So we're back on the offense horse for at least the next couple of weeks. Thank you for asking. That's me.
Yeah, mine is everything but offense and speed. But if I need to drill it down to be more specific, the quantity I need is defense. So while I need potency and I need tenacity and I need crit chance and I need crit damage, the sheer number of defense mods I need outweighs all of those. But for me, it's basically everything but speed and offense I need to keep farming. Um, I haven't gotten to defense yet. I've been taking. It's one of those things where it's like, where you take the most manageable tasks first, and you just keep going until you get to the big task. So I'm knocking out like the two pieces. So like the crit chance, tenacity, potency, and I'm coming to the point here where I'm probably going to spend June through September, like 3 to 4 straight months, just farming defense mods, because that's the biggest gap. Like I have virtually none.
Yep. A lot of players in the same position. So
Yep.
Be the first.
But
Fair.
Unlike you, I feel like I'm good for the next 3 months on offense and speed set.
That's good.
So,
I mean,
that makes me feel good hearing you say that, because it's like, okay, some of the mistakes that were made weren't. I'm not feeling them yet, or I shouldn't say mistakes. Some of the decisions made, I'm not feeling the pinch yet.
right.
I'm not
Yeah.
feeling a pinch on offense or speed yet.
It took me a long time to get to this pain point. It's taken a long time, and it's fine. It's fine. I have been called back to the mission of offense. Fair enough. DJ, Fatal, Sasha, how about you guys? Any shortages to speak of?
I'll say
No, not
mine.
for-
Yeah, from mine, if I'm looking at it, it's just the pure offense and defense secondaries. Those good quality numbers of what you want to hit, or where I'm lacking. It's not set types or anything like that. I'm finding it's just finding out like one of those really high, really beefy offense secondaries.
Yeah,
Really
specialty
high,
mods.
really beefy. It's really where that my critique has really been the hardest when I look at like my overall. Speed has been okay. I'm running all right there, but when we start getting into the quality of like you want to hit this number, you want to hit this mark, that too many people want that setup. If you want to start moving the defense route, too many people want this. Like you want to be this number. So I've been feeling the pinch when it comes to there, where I'm having to make negotiations I do not want, and I think that'll continue for a while because it's just I don't think you can ever have enough true good like hardy numbers on your crons or on your mods.
Fair. Sasha, I think you were about to say something.
No, I nothing to add there. All good.
Gotcha. And Fatal, of course.
Just I pretty much just filter by defense sets, and then I go 2 ways. I look for protection primaries with defense, health, and speed secondaries, and then health primaries with protection, defense, speed secondaries. Percent for all of those. And yeah, I've been working on it for a few months, and that pool is still incredibly small. It truly just seems like one of the hardest things to hit in this game in a large quantity. That I think it is going to take at least a year, if not more, to get a decent amount built up. And you're like, right? I'm looking at my collection now. I've actually got a decent amount of arrows. I'm up to like 10 arrows, but only 3 crosses still. It is, yeah. It's slow going. It's not good, but I don't. I think it's a worthwhile pursuit. Try to feed into all of the bulk scalers against each other.
Fair.
So yeah. It's the grind.
By the way, I just checked Fatal. You are literally 9 ranks behind me.
Ooh.
That was pretty
coming
fun.
soon. Coming soon. Team Showdown, perhaps.
Oh, we're talking about GSC. I thought you were talking about like mod score or something. I was like, what
Man, no, those are different worlds apart. I was just looking like you said. I'm like, man, I fell to the 200. I looked. I'm like, I'm 220. You're 229.
We gotta get out of here.
I think that's the
you
plan.
and I have some climbing to do.
Yeah, man. I think that's the plan.
All right. So who wants to know that I'm in the 400s?
You disgust me.
Yeah, that's
but-
something you play one round and like one of 6 rounds. The last 2
But
weeks.
I agree. I think the overall. I just want to call it back one thing. I think Fatal. I think Dagger and everything I've seen, like going up and down or wherever, it's true. The riskier, higher risk plays or the setups of it's not so 1-to-1 are in the higher numbers. People are willing to put themselves more on the line. Generally, from what I've seen, where it's like I faced maybe one GL. It's like, well, shit, my opponent said all of them, and I've generally seen people get wiry out there in the Wild West when they're back further than when you're up top.
Oh, yeah.
It just feels so different.
Slogging through the bottom of Kyber 1, like 5 to 7 GLs on defense was the norm.
That's true. Yeah.
It's the norm. All the way up until about 200. 200 is when you start to see like 4 or 5. And then I remember, like, I watched the guys in the top 50, and it's like, oh, you guys are fighting like 3.
Oh, dude,
So, like,
no,
yeah, like,
it's not even 3 anymore. It's everyone would just like post like Ray plus LV or whatever, and then like 13 13 not even B teams, 13 like D teams, and I'm like, what the fuck are we doing here?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like the bottom of K1, it was like in 3v3, Jesus Christ, it was like 5 to 7 GLs. Like I had consistently like 6-7 GLs on defense. And that, I'm not saying it was fun necessarily to slug through all of them, but yeah, like the willingness to place them and then like have a slugfest and hope you're just good enough to win is definitely the way that it feels like everybody but the top like 100 plays in Kyber 1.
It breaks my brain to imagine clearing a board and having like a bunch of B and C teams sitting around that would have like put pressure on our defense and being like,
Yeah.
all according to plan. I have beaten people who I know for a fact were sitting on B and C teams that would have fucked me up that round. But it's just like, well, you never know when CG might double the size of the GAC board mid-match, so I gotta be ready. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, I know that Tass and TJ and I have a discussion about every single season about what's the worst team that you should be willing to place on defense. Almost every season we have that discussion. Recently it was Zori. I don't know what it's going to be now, but yeah, Zori is the team where it's like, if you have to, I guess you can, but it doesn't feel good. Right. But yeah, it's just one of those things where I understand that at the top end of the game, people want to win, and the easiest way to win is to full clear and do it efficiently. And the easiest way to do that is to just save more than you need for offense. And that's one of the reasons GAC got boring for me, a year and a half, 2 years ago, whatever. And that's when I started, like, because those of you who haven't been watching this the whole time, it's like I used to post a really heavy defense, and then once I got to the top end, I was behind. I didn't have everything. So I had to start saving more for offense just because my opponents could put up a stronger defense than I could. So I had to learn how to play an efficiency game. And then as I slowly caught up, I started posting more and more on defense, started moving back towards a defense heavy thing. And then the last like year and a half, it's just been like Datacrons are just like, that's cool. We're just going to not make defense relevant. Oh, well, frequently the sets would just not make defense relevant.
To that end, though, like, if you're holding 7 GL, and you're holding Bane, and you're holding, like, Riva, Seer, Queen Amidala, like, insert any number of, like, incredibly powerful B teams here. What drives you to be like, and I also need these 20 other B and C teams, just in case? That, like, brother, like, use your roster. Why you're farming Datacrons for a squad and then holding it and not use? Like, what are we doing here? And then I see people like, I see people like, well, this is just another offense team, and I don't need more offense teams. It's like, brother, you're holding 45 teams for offense. This is a self-inflicted casualty.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. When you pull out, when you're like, oh man, this is an offense team, reevaluate your offense teams and figure out if there's something you can post that you're currently saving. The answer is probably like yes. And if it's not yes, you should probably just like find a reason why it's a yes. But
a lot of times it just comes down to being risk adverse. So when there's no reason or
goal,
want to for GAC anymore, what it's built into as what it's grown up to be is not the want to deal with the BS of a true fight when you take the hard counter, and then because that's what they're doing to you. You'll see people who will go down in a bigger fight lower than in the top because they don't want to risk it. And the understanding is you have to one shot well. If you even drop one, you've dropped the loss. So if they're really wanting to fight in GAC, that's what it's become.
Yeah, one of my goals this month, and we'll see if it gets accomplished based on, kids are off for the summer for me. So it's like, have fun having any free time fucking ever. But one of my goals this month is to actually get a Hot Utis template put together so I can actually like remod my roster the one time and then see if that's good enough to manually maintain it. because I've just been farming so many mods and like working on so many mods that I just haven't had the ability to sit down and tear my roster up, and I just don't think I will. And thankfully, I have this roster that I can leverage, but I haven't been able to find the time to remod the roster to leverage the roster. So that's one of the things that I need to do, because I, like, you know, for those who don't, I have an R9 floor. Like, if I have an R9 floor, like, why am I not leveraging the fact that I have that? And that's something I need to do with like a hot utils template. So I might borrow TJ at some point over the next month to try to help me work on some numbers, because I'm rudimentary on how to use hot utils. Thankfully, TAS put out a video. Haha, free plug.
To the patrons, I
Just
still
like the ones
haven't
he needs
released it
for
to the general public yet, but it is coming.
well, fine, free plug, like the ones you need for your fucking hair. Then,
Woo!
No, all jokes aside, yeah, I need to learn how to use that tool. Recently just picked up hot utils again because I need to use it.
Very fair.
Just
Yeah.
Just to circle back real quick, because I had this thought recently, and I think it's possibly good fodder for the show. I think if people are associating posting D teams with being risk averse, then I think at some point the onus of the responsibility comes on us as heavy defense players to make them feel that risk, or recognize that like you are posting these teams that are like literally a liability for you. You have a bad habit that's literally like you are wasting years of work on your roster and letting these units just sit there and rot. Like maybe it is on players like me to just like do the work and be like, okay, I can just like 2-man that shit, or like find the ways to like. I mean, literally, this is what I experienced with like my ships, where like for the longest time I was like, man, fuck fleets. I'm posting the worst ships comps you could literally possibly imagine, and winning anyway. And then eventually we did get to a point where people were like, all right, I'm just gonna like no reinforcement or like 2-man that shit. And I was like, all right, I guess I gotta get my act together. I'll like post some default
Yeah, I mean,
stuff.
one of the things too is to go back to why we have the conversation about what the worst team said is something like Zori. It's because you can just like Malgus plus like BSF 2-man it, or you can Afra 3-man it. Obviously, you have the Afra Kron, so maybe you do something higher calling with that. But that's one of the reasons why we talk about the worst team. And I'm not saying people do that. I'm saying that the fact that they have the ability to do that, and that we know that we would do that, is the reason why we don't set it. So to your point, frequently people set these teams because they don't go through that thought process.
Yeah.
What is my point? Sorry.
I was just going to say when I look at setting my board against competitors that I don't play all the time, which is rarer and rarer, right? But folks that like maybe are particularly cheesy in how they've been climbing the ranks, like that's very much the mindset that I take. Fatal is I think about like if I can look at their history and identify, for example, hey, generally they'll post 3 or 4 things that I don't need anything really serious to counter at all. I always think defense first, but I will double down on that and go back to my defense and say, okay, I can break apart 3 or 4 of my offensive options and essentially disintegrate them and infuse like a character or two into my other defensive squads to just, that's the like it's not the literal example, but that a representative one would be that, hey, I can throw Bane in under C, or I could, there just are examples like that. You're right. Like, I mean, it really, the onus shifts to the defensive oriented player of if you're going up against an opponent that's deciding they're not going to post thoroughly defensively, then the only way to really make, well, not the only, but I think one of the most important ways to make them pay is that you take everything that you otherwise would have needed on offense as to cover that extra margin and infuse your defense. The other thing I'll add is like, I find myself like it's a regular monthly cadence I have of this, of like the first week of every season before data's out on, exact crons and like the data cron sets and whatever new character's been introduced, there's at least a little bit of unproven ground. it feels a little more fun, and I can generally set like 6 or 7 GLs and feel comfortable with it. And then 2 weeks later, for the last week of the season, it becomes a huge competitive disadvantage to just, if I I don't know, throw a particular GL comp out that I can just see this opponent is able to do something super cheap for good banners on, then it sucks as much as I want to. And if I leave that thing on defense, then I'm conceding one battle and like kind of a major amount of like resource profit to the other side. So I just feel like I kind of go through that journey every month, from like first week shifting over to second and to third week. And sometimes I don't make that shift with it, and I just say, screw it. I'm going to really prioritize what I enjoy and just set a defense I feel good about. And there are other times where I'm like, I'd like to win this one, and my competitive positioning is strengthened by not leaving that GL. It doesn't feel great, but sometimes that's the case.
Yeah, I mean, one more thing to kind of add to this is, if you ever look at your opponents, well, I shouldn't say ever, when you look at your opponents and like if you just peruse their thing, there's a lot of people who will change things up a little bit, and the vast majority of them, they change things, but they don't change anything. So they're like, I'm gonna pull Leia, but put Ahsoka down. Or I'm gonna pull you know what I mean? Like, the thing that they're placing in its place is equivalent. So when
Yeah,
you're
they won't
looking at them, it's
increase
like,
the
I have to.
intensity of their defense. They'll just rotate different equivalent elements in and out.
Yes, correct. Yeah, exactly. So it's like, if they're not like, yeah, they're going to change a lot, but they don't actually change their overall strategy. And I think that there's a lot of people who are like, oh, they might set this or they might set this. It's like, well, if you look at what they're setting, it's this or this, and then that or that. It's not, oh man, they could set any one of these 10 teams. It's like, no, they're going to set 5 of those teams, and then you line up which ones like are roughly equivalent that they've set in those places. And then you're just like, I'm going to save something that can deal with each one of those. And sure, it might cost you an offense slot, but you don't have to save 4 extra teams because your opponent might set 10. They're only going to set 5 of those, so save 6.
Fair.
And I think that that's just generally good advice for people when they're looking at their opponents, because a lot of people will change things up just to change things up, or they find something didn't work, so they put it on defense to use something else. And I think that there's a lot of those people that when they go to look at their opponent, it gets daunting because like, oh, my opponent placed 8 of their 9 GLs at different points during the last season, but it's like, how many did they ever post maximum? And the answer to that's usually like 4.
Mhm.
So just kind of keep that in mind when you're looking at your opponents. Is it may look daunting when you're going through their history, being like, oh man, they set everything. It's like they don't. They just are willing to set each thing individually. So kind of maybe approach it that way. Because that's one of the things I know that I've talked to people who find it daunting to scout, is because they're just like, what happens if they change things up? And it's like, well, the vast majority of players will just change things, but they don't change things up. So just to kind of help
Fair.
just to drive Sasha's point home a little bit there, it's when you're looking at people who you may not fight, who you don't fight all the time, there is a lot of easy information to grab if you're willing to put in a minimal amount of effort. So, and don't oversave for offense if you're nervous. Just save better teams, not more teams.
To your point, Fatal, about trying to offer a pretty intense defense anyway. Like against opponents that are gonna go efficiency, that's when I have the most opportunity. And so I do get that chance some amount of the time. Um, that's why I will scout. So I do it differently than you would. I would just scout them, and then okay, I see you're going to set all these BC teams down, and then like 1 or 2 GLs. Save one precise thing for everything. All the harder stuff I have on defense. There you go. Set most of the worst stuff in the back. Set a bunch of lesser teams and choices bottom front, and let him impale himself, type of thing. That circumstance does happen more often than not, particularly for the reasons you said. People just wanting to win in the higher ranks. They'll set lighter defenses to offer themselves a more perfect offense.
All I'm saying is you don't even have to do the research. Just like over the course of a season, look at your last fight and look at the teams that you have left.
Yes,
And
that's
like,
a fair.
Yeah, because there are frequently times where I do. Yeah, and to Fatal's point, I usually post a pretty robust defense, not to the point of like being heavy defense, but I mean robust as in the worst team isn't usually that bad. And I frequently end up with like at least one or two like OMI teams not used. So it does force me to reevaluate that on a like week to week, season to season basis.
I gotcha. Fair. All right,
Yeah,
guys. Oh, sorry. You had something, Fatal?
No, I was just gonna say, like, to be clear, I am asking people to beat me more. I am asking people to make GEC harder. Like, this isn't me complaining of like, oh, I'm losing. And like, no, I'm winning more than I should be. Like,
Dude, I fight
Let's-
Tuscans in fives. Like, why the fuck am I fighting Tuscans in fives?
yes,
Fair questions.
I'm
Fair
fighting
questions.
like boss lead Zam teams in fives. Why the fuck am I fighting BAM lead boss lead Zam teams in fives?
All right. Let's get back to the next question here. Do you guys ever get nervous before matches or streams? How do you calm the nerves? I, for one, take long walks and deep meditative spells. Nah, I'm kidding. I just use substance. That's my technique. Also, preparation helps me feel better. Scouting people out, having a tentative idea of what I would do on attack based on the defense I anticipate helps ease the nerves. However, if it ends up being like one of the really tough matches where I scout a lot, like a top bracket match where I'm scouting for more than a couple of hours, there's an anxiety that builds about Jesus. It better all be worth it for the time I'm putting in. So that puts some pressure on me, but that brings us back to aforementioned substances. Dagger, how about you?
As somebody who does public speaking, I got over those kind of jitters in high school and college.
Nice.
The only times I really feel any kind of anxiety is if I'm trying a counter I've never tried. Basically, no, I'm not throwing you under the bus here, TJ. But basically, anything TJ said is 100% for him. I get a little anxiety when I use it because historically those are not 100%. I make the joke, buddy. But no, the times the only times I really get anxious or feel any anxiety when playing GAC are when I'm trying something new or and there's no data on it. Like let's say I've never used a counter, but GG has it at like 85%. I'm like, oh, I'm probably competent enough to execute this counter, and it'll probably be 75 to 80% for me to win because I'm not practiced.
Sure.
Right. So like I'm not like overly nervous about that. But if I'm trying something for the first time, like week ones where there's new data crons and new metas, I'll get nervous sometimes about like a new cron. Like this Saw cron, for example, when it came out in 3v3, I'm like, oh my god, how am I going to beat this? And I had a little bit of anxiety about that when I saw it on the board. Then after like looking around for less than 5 minutes, I'm like, oh, dad bought it. Cool, we're done. Right? Like,
Yeah.
like so that's for me personally, that's where I get little tweaks of anxiety is when that happens, but I'm also an anomaly in the sense that I do like guest lecturing and public speaking. So I don't really suffer from stage fright, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. How about you, Fatal?
That got beaten out of me at a young age.
That's fair. Fatal, you're the only other regular content creator. How about you? How do you deal with do you get nervous before a stream or a GAC fight if you're not streaming it? How do you deal with it?
I don't. GAC just isn't really worth getting nervous over. Like back when GAC got reworked, and I was like doing a bunch of like scouting and prep and stuff, then like yeah, the nerves were higher, kind of for reasons like what you said, right? Where it was like you're doing all this investment and commitment and like worried about whether it's gonna be worth it or not. But like, I don't know.
Sure.
The only
so the
thing-
game itself doesn't drive any of that feeling, but just general, you never get stage fright or anything even outside of the game. Nothing like that.
I'm more worried about like a round being boring or like uninteresting because I like, I enjoy or at least enjoyed watching Galaxy Heroes in the past, and like I know what it is to like pull up in a stream and like see a GL versus a non-GL. At least for me, that's like
Not educational.
this is like you already know what's gonna happen before you go in, and so like I don't think that like losing a battle like should reflect poorly on you, and I don't think losing a match should reflect poorly on you.
Mhm.
It's more about like what did you represent going in, and like did you take risks? Were they fun to watch? Like, of course, always be playing to win, but just because you lost the match doesn't mean you're like gone forever. Whatever, just go win the next one, or yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's worth that level of anxiety for. Like, I would be way more afraid of like feeling like I wasted my time or didn't enjoy the time that I spent, rather than like, you know, I I have had some extremely hollow wins and I've had some extremely enjoyable losses, and I would
Yes.
kind of rather enjoy the loss at some point than
That is
like,
how I feel about the scouting, because you hit the nail on the head for me. It is a state of mind thing for sure, but I enjoy scouting so much that even if I lose, I'm very seldom incorrect about what they were going to set and how they were going to approach my board, and I'm always able to take satisfaction in that. So, to mitigate the idea that I might spend a lot of time scouting, and then if I lose, that does bite. But where it would really only chap my ass is if they just juked me hard. When I saw that they were going to do A and then they did B. I saw zig, they did zag. Um, that
it's
sucks. That sucks for somebody like me. But otherwise, I can live with it.
it's a very weird interest, because I was a very heavy scouter like
Mm-hmm.
when GSU first went more competitive.
Mhm.
But the thing that I will tell you is, in some really weird ways, stopping scouting, s- I would go very hard on like trying to predict and like looking for zigs and zags or whatever, and very often it would like backfire on me. And there was something really, I would see people trying to do it, and the moment that I stopped playing that game and just like was more focused on my routine and my defense plan and how that would like fit my offense, it basically just made me immune to that whole side of the game. And in a weird way, it actually kind of started like making opponent attempts to do something like feel really transparent, because like I don't, it just feels like anytime that I see like a front wall bait now, it's just like, oh yeah, that's bait. Like they're like, they know exactly what the heck my defense is. It's been the same thing for the last 7 matches. And so it's just like, I know what my offense plan is. I see like the team that they're trying to fish for, and it's like, okay, so this is probably back wall. And whether or not I choose to take that bait or not, the onus is on me. But in a weird way, standardizing your own game plan makes their responses to it more clarified, in a way that like, because if I'm trying to pull some shit at the same time that they're trying to pull some shit, dude, it was practically a coin flip of like trying to guess like your guess against their guess. But I don't know, man. It's weirdly liberating, even though obviously I think the meta has shifted, and it's building a defense at the start of a season and then just letting that shit rock is like less successful now in like a very real way. But the strategic clarity is still like a very, very huge pro, I would say, as someone who used to like scout a lot.
Yeah, there's certain again, it's more of a state of mind thing than technique, but yeah, there's certain ways where I can just keep myself satisfied with it. But I think you have a really important point here, and this is something I like to highlight to people that watch the show, is that you don't have to be in love with scouting the same way I am to be a top ranked player. Uh, Many players produce fine results and don't scout at all. They might have a different philosophy. They'll have like a couple ideas that they want to rotate around on defense and just do that. They might not do it the same way Fatal does. But there are people who know that it's like, if I save these many teams, I should be able to deal with whatever they've got set, which allows me to set all of the remainder. And yeah, yeah. There's enough of that. There's enough of that, and it can succeed just as well as scouting. So whatever actually works for I think whatever's going to keep you engaged and keep you interested, because the nature of the game is going to change every time there's a Datacron set rotation, of course, as they add teams, what have you. The game's always a moving target, and some people get really crestfallen when a meta expires that they liked or a new meta begins that they are not huge fans of. And I'm able to kind of just stay the same through all the dips and valleys, just on the idea that scouting people is the way is always the same. You're looking at their tendencies, you are trying to draw their tendencies or play against their tendencies, but it's really fun to think about that cat and mouse game. Otherwise, yeah, like you said, having the strategic clarity of your own vision for a defense and then adjust it as much or as little as I guess you desire. There's a real advantage to that. Fair. TJ, anything from you about this one?
I think it goes 50-50. I kind of think it's fun doing both things. I generally fall on the line that I'm comfortable and know what I'm going to do to scout. And so that's kind of the GACI play. But playing the Wild West and just going in guns a-blazing, I know I've heard regularly, not just from Fatal, but from like Zareth that said the same thing. He scouted for a while and he just stopped and he said he felt like it improved. And going either way and you're playing the game you want to play works. Going either way, you're going to see success and failure. So it's kind of play it your way. I don't think there's anything wrong with going in and Fatal saying this stopped for me and this improved. It makes perfect sense. You know what you're getting. When I know if I see Fatal on the board going against me, I know what I'm getting. That's a scout or not scout. The shit's going to be on the board. I'm going to have to account for it. What do I want to do? Do I want to play the off meta game? And I will call it off meta for Fatal. Well, we talked about this, but I will say that 100%. With Fatal, it's you're playing the off meta. Am I willing to go and play his game, or do I want to play it my way, scout, and then I'm going to try to go that round? There's no wrong answer, and that's why I think it's great. It's just pushed us to one direction where you're scouting. It is, and I would also agree with Fatal, too easy to hold too much. I can scout properly and spend the hours, but I don't think there's ever been a time where I felt like I used every piece of the animal, and so that's kind of where I'll keep it. It's a tough middle ground to want to be, but for me, I love the scout. I love to look at it, and then if I strategically set myself up, that's my game. So that's kind of where I stick.
And I appreciate your philosophy here on your take on scouting or not. But back to the viewer question also. Do you ever get nervous before you do a grand arena, or even back when you guest on people's streams, not just mine, but Heinz's going back in the day? Any type of jitters ever get you in the game or in real life, and how do you deal with it?
I actually took classes on that, and eventually my job just calls for what I have to do. So naturally, I've come out. I may still have some of the same tendencies of an or an or some of the other things that they'll call like the big no-nos for when you're doing public speaking. But getting nervous, not really. One fun one is if you do get nervous, walking to try to exert energy is supposed to be a really good one. So exerting any energy that you're going to store up, because that's essentially why you're nervous. You've stashed a lot of energy that's going to hold. So walking is a great one. Another one, if your palms get sweaty, another trick they taught us would be taking not water you're going to drink, but ice cold water to hold. You can squeeze it, and then also it kind of stops everything. So that's another one that was a good trick for it. Other than that, getting on stream with you guys, or even being on there, even being on with Arnold, it doesn't matter. I've talked in front of hundreds, in front of thousands. Just kind of how you carry yourself, and it's just if you've prepared yourself or not. If you have, you're going to be successful, and then that kind of just goes away.
Dig that.
Also, just repetition, right? Like kind of what you were saying too. Like there's an amount of repetition that once you like, as someone who has given a 2-hour speech in front of 5,000 people, I don't think anything's going to be more stressful or nerve wracking than preparing for that and executing that. So it's like, I don't know if you've done something on that level, TJ, but what
Yeah.
you were saying, right? It's like, this is not the highest stress thing that I have done. Like,
No.
today.
Yeah,
Oh,
no,
sure.
I've
And
I've been
stage fright.
doing
Stage fright isn't about it being the scariest thing you ever face. It's just like an uncontrollable thing until you learn to
it is.
control it. If you had it in the first place, right?
Yeah, and they do call it. It is true. Public speaking is one of the biggest fears. That if you go look at the where it sits at the top of it, public speaking, I believe is number one. If
Yeah.
not, it's definitely close to number one, being number two. It is definitely in a top two. If you and there's actually classes out there how to mitigate that, but that's where I learned certain things just because I was doing it during college. How can you better prepare yourself for doing a public speaking event? And then that's where I got like it's high energy. So going out for a jog or a walk, literally right before you're going to do it. And then if you're tired, it's easier because you walk in. And if you're prepared, it just goes well.
Okay, I appreciate that. Let's see here. Our next question. Let me move it back. We got a couple here from the Lost Swamp Rat. What teams are you most looking forward to trying on offense, and what are you hoping to not see on defense? Crap! Is my mic not working?
No, it worked. I just don't think anybody responded. Maybe because we were waiting for the round robin.
Well, yeah. I
The
mean,
in
I'm
order
usually
type.
going first, but my daughter literally just grabbed my hands
Yeah.
and like shoved this broken toy butterfly into them that I was expected to repair on the spot, and now it still remains
You are
broken.
supposed to know it.
So you're still going to remain displeased, child. For anything that I'm not looking forward to seeing on defense, that's not me. I'm just expecting the biggest, baddest things, and I'm hoping that I've got the stuff put together to be able to deal with it.
Yeah, I also don't process things in that type of way. Like, as far as teams that I'm excited to use, it's like, eh. Like, like when you say teams that you're excited to use, it's like there are very few teams in this game that where it's like executing their button clicking brings me great joy, if that makes sense. So it's more like what matchups do I find interesting as opposed to what teams do I enjoy playing, if that makes sense. I enjoy more of the matchups where there's a lot of interplay, a lot of decision making, where you feel like you have some autonomy over the fight. So in that sense, those like QA is a team that I enjoy on offense. I feel like there's a fair amount of autonomy with
That's a
button
good one.
clicking there.
That's a good one.
Star Killer, right? There's some like Seer where it's just like use rocks on cooldown and they'll
Yeah.
eventually die. Right? Like I'm not saying that team isn't fun. I'm just saying like I don't look forward to like clicking that. That's kind of what I mean. Is like and as far as teams I don't want to see on defense, it's like there's nothing I don't want to see on defense. There are just teams whose design annoy me more than designs of other teams.
Yeah.
For example, I've gone over how the Lord Vader team design bothers me, but I won't go into it here. You've heard me talk about that enough. OG Night Sisters is another team that it's not good now, but it just bothered me because of the design. I felt like it was just poor design. But I don't hate seeing those teams on defense or dislike seeing those teams on defense. I just dislike their existence. Right?
Fair.
It's not the seeing them on defense, it's the existence of them that annoys me. So no, I don't really approach GAC that way. I don't save teams for offense because I like using them. I don't set teams on defense because I don't like using them.
Mhm. Well, I will say for things that I
so-
do like using on offense, so anything that feels like once you set up the condition, you get the pop, right? So the Star Killer ship drop, that second set of rocks out of Malicos, if not the first, the BT1 flamethrower, all the things like that. I always look forward.
Oh yeah, the dopamine hits. The dopamine hits are great. Like I've said that before. I'm in this game for the dopamine hits. So like you're saying, all of those things that you listed, absolutely like I said, clicking those buttons does feel rewarding. But I was trying to think of like I don't look yeah, anyways, I was just saying I don't really look forward to using those teams. It's just clicking specific buttons feels better than clicking some other specific buttons. But anyways, sorry, go ahead.
Very
My
cool.
apologies.
Yeah. Fatal TJ, feel free to comment how you feel on this question. You need me to repeat it?
No, I think it's fine, man. For me, Again, I want to see if the dad bot can do things. I think that's the 2-man on 5 is cool. And that gets to work out. That would be a lot of fun. Where it goes, and if it ends up being a knot, which it probably will be, still fun to want to try it. Other than that, I kind of fall into the same boat. We just moved along to where we're at now. Queen is fun. I do like the queen. The queen's a lot of fun, and she does have a good punch up. So that I like to call out on the queen team if you get to use it. The other one, if it could ever support it, I would call myself with Dagger and a Mon Mothma Truther. If it could ever set it up, it's also got great punch up value when it's not being pulled apart, because you do need certain mechanics to be in the team to make it great. As far as I was concerned, I've seen Fatal do things with far less and make it great. So to be fair, I just think it's a lot fun to get those teams that have great punch up value when they don't have a higher calling of being on defense. So Queen is great.
Yeah.
My Mothma's fun. Those anything where I get to have a huge punch up and call it something that's off meta. Not the known mechanic of Sonic gets to do this and there goes your bam, killing everybody, but actual like this is gonna be a good fight. And if it works, it's gonna be a great 65, or it's gonna get us close there versus this was an over punch. As also Fatal said, going in watching a GL beat a non-GL feels kind of poopy.
Fair. Fatal, any thoughts from you?
I would hope that I don't know, like again, there is cool stuff in the set. Like I would like to see Afra on defense, and like I'm not necessarily saying that's a great defensive team, but I think if you build the team correctly, there's at least a lot of weirdness that I think would be really fun to try to fight against. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm just kind of looking for. Like I know Queen Amidala is probably just going to get sawed. Maybe I would want to see Saw on defense, because I do think there may be some friction between Saw and Dadbod with the 2 extra people putting out a little bit more damage. Yeah, maybe that could be fun, but like obviously Saw and Queen have tension lines that like I'm not saying that's necessarily the easiest to post. Really, yeah, it's just like, if I could see some of what the cool stuff the set is offering without it necessarily just getting obliterated by the annoying stuff that the set is offering, I think that would be a novel experience.
Fair. Yeah, kind of tough to come by. Good goal, nevertheless. All right. Next question here from Wombrat. Has Scorch, and I guess we'll consider this in context of the known issues with Mon Mothma being able to fight it, with Bam being able to fight it. But the question is, has Scorch changed whether you will be using Lord Vader on defense, or will you be taking him to clear other Lord Vaders? Or I guess more generally, we can interpret that to mean on offense, especially in context of the bugs. I think that, while for the purposes of securing a win, might be better to save Lord Vader for offense. I think that let's assume that CG doesn't do a quick hot fix here and have us intact to disable those counters for round 1. I'm still kind of inclined to set him on defense, but maybe in the back after you've done some work getting to him. And then if you want him on Mothman there for full banners, that's fine, because if you were able to do that, I'd rather have you have to earn your way to it first than just do it for free like first thing. That's the first thought that jumps out to me. How about you guys?
Yeah, I think first my opponent would have to show, like, I'm not saying
Uh-oh.
isn't 100%.
Underwater you go. Come back to us.
Oh, better. Sorry. How do I put this? It's one of those things where I still want to make you do it because they all have some amount of risk baked in. Like, I don't believe Mon Mothma's 100%, especially for like the out of the box Mon Mothmas. I don't think that I don't know if BKM is 100%. I've seen people do it. but I don't know what the replicability, is that the word?
Reproducibility, yeah.
I don't know how. I don't know what the reproducibility of those is. So to what Tess said, I think it's reasonable to set it in the back. I think it's reasonable to set it up front. I think these bugs existing means that people will be more inclined to try off counters, and I think that there's going to be a failure rate. They might not fail against me, but I'm willing to let myself be one of the people they fail against. Kind of like what Tess said. It's like I might move it to the back until they fix these, but no, it feels like it. And if you're using Mon Mothma, you have to pull Luthen, which means your Saw team gets significantly worse. If you're gonna, you know what I mean? Like there's some extraneous factors there as well. I'm just not inclined, and then to let my opponent just not have to deal with it. Because on the off chance they just SOK it anyways, like that's cool too.
Yeah. There. By the way, do we think that Leia works against Lord Vader here?
Yes.
Good, because that's probably one of the two options. Looking at myself, fair enough.
The answer is probably.
Yeah.
I don't know how much data we have on.
Yeah.
I'm just going to take an assumption that in the safer notes of what's happening with the datacrons that are out there. But again, I think it also may require a special setup for what you're trying to achieve.
Well, what are you
And it's
doing
not
with
just
your
still
Lord?
prep track.
Sorry.
But to TJ's point, if you ask me if Leia beats something, my default is going to be probably or yes.
Probably.
Okay.
Yes, because there's bulk. There's bulk on the information, right? It's like you're talking about a setup where you get to now add 2 more characters that can be rebel fighters to a rebel fighter bulk datacron that has pretty good punchy value. Do you think it's going to take stuff out? Pretty likely.
And they're not reliant on mechanics that
Right.
the Lord Vader team is trying to specifically shut down.
Correct. So that's what I said. When you say it's like, do you think it's going to take it out? I think anything bulky on somebody who likes bulk is going to do pretty well right now.
Okay, good. I got to move us to the next question, guys. Well, actually, no, I don't think we got Fatal's response on that. If you had any takes on what you're doing with Lord Vader, if not offense, or sorry, if not defense.
What are you doing, Fatal, with your?
I had to give him the
defensive
chance.
team.
You know, I had to give him the chance.
Well, the last couple seasons I've been posting Treya LV, and I had the thought about an hour ago that like maybe I should just stick with that. I don't know. I do think there's something to be said for like maybe just post it anyway and be like, all right, prove it, because you know it like Barbarossa's testing. Barbarossa, as far as I'm aware, I'm pretty sure he told me this, is like he doesn't really play the game anymore, and like. I just with anybody's testing, if you can't see the testing conditions or understand, like, I don't know, like maybe it's entirely possible that like, okay, your Scorch kills itself, but like a properly built LVT might be able to push back or whatever. There's something to be said for, you know, giving your team its day in court, and if it happens to go that way, especially like if it's an opponent that you can talk to and confirm after the first match, like, yeah, the BKM, it was easy as shit, then like, okay, maybe you think it through from there. But yeah, I don't know. I it might just be worth sticking with day one and just, you know, if you assume the worst, then you pretty much guarantee that it'll happen. But like, maybe you get something decent out of it. If not,
So we all agree that like week one, round one, we're setting it and may reevaluate for week one, round two.
yeah, probably
50-50. But I guess it's tough to get beyond the make it their problem. Even if you think you have the problem solved, have you done it yourself? Have you done it with all the Omicrons or whatever's going to be turned on? Has it done all the same effects? So there is always going to be something to the additive.
Yeah. Or like, how does your out of the box Mon Mothma team work when you don't have 6 dots on your POW?
It's just,
you know, I'm just saying, like, I don't think people have this team dialed in. And when I say dialed in, I mean 6 dot mods with like reasonable mods. I'm willing to take the bet that the majority of people won't
Dagger,
be
you
ready.
just watch the video and then it does the exact same thing. Don't you know how Sugo works?
That's fair. That's fair. I also look forward to people with their R5 like SRPs or not HRSs being like, why don't I do any damage?
Fair.
Anyways, yeah, I'm just saying I don't know.
Mhm. All right. Next question here from Squed. Are there Datacron combinations in the current set that you initially overlooked, but now have gone after? So I guess this is kind of outside of focus Datacron. I think this is just generically speaking about set 21, and if the situation applies for you, set 20. Myself, I think I covered at the beginning of the stream. I just wanted to make sure I took advantage of the stat diversity on this Kron set and make sure I had some options for tenacity and for potency. Light side and dark side both, actually. How about you guys?
Batcher's going to be a lot better than people realize.
Yeah?
I think
The Batcher
there's a lot of
the Batcher
combinations.
Kron you're meaning. Yeah, I don't have one now that you mention it.
I don't think the Crosshair Cron is better than the Batcher Cron in 5s. Being able to shut down bonus turn meter on that team is kind of absurd.
Okay, I can see it.
I don't know if that one was overlooked, but I know I mentioned it in the last in between about how that was a Cron I was looking at for 5v5 because anything that says you can't gain TM is just going to incidentally have value regardless of and I don't think the Crosshair Cron is actually that good, if I'm being honest. I mean, it's good, but eh.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I saw the Batchacron enough just in 3 versus 3, so I expect I'll see that here in 5s. That's a fair one. TJ, Fatal, thoughts from you?
Is there room for some of the bad batch goodness on the clean team with the bulk setup?
Oh,
One
yeah,
of the
like
things that regularly
Necron?
so you're starting to see where I'm going, right? So one of the
Yeah,
combos
yeah,
that
yeah.
mess with things is you messing with what the team is gonna do and messing with the mechanics. I think the Bad Batch in general have some work that they get to do. Bypassing taunt is a fun one. So doing that on a bulk setup is always a fun time. So is there any implications that you could do it? Because everybody's gonna think the rebels, but the Bad Batch piece, other one is having more Sith and then focusing on the Sith teams. And does that have any implications to where it can hold more weight? E.g., Talon's setup. And maybe it is that maybe we're into week 3 and Tarkin with the clones is the way to go in LV, and then you're doing the Treya team with the Talon setup, and Steve's doing shenanigans that are messing you up on top of you're continuing to regen their health or stopping it to get a bonus turn or I don't think we got to see enough of that because if you only had 2 characters, well, now you're up to 4 and 5. This is going to be a lot better. Those are where I think people are assuming it's all the same fight, and I may see some expectations swap around.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Fatal, any thoughts from you on this one?
Everything pretty much landed where I thought it would. I don't know. If anything, I guess I would say I was higher on this than I should have been, that I should have identified just how offensively lopsided things were, that I maybe would have deprioritized some things that I expected to be good otherwise. Like Saw is fine and all, but you probably could have got away with just I rushed Saw, and in reality, the calibrated enthusiasm amount probably should have just been I got the level 6 handbag.
Yeah, that's
like-
pretty much the gem, right? And the 3 and the 6, the 9 feels.
Yeah, if you're just gonna hold Saw for offense, I don't even the 9 wouldn't be bad to have, but I suspect that in a large quantity of matches, you might not ever get to experience it. You might just make them fall down and go boom.
Very fair. Okay, I've got another one here for you guys. This one from Miasmo. What is a moment in your life that you are proud of, sans children and kittens in your answers? No kids, no children allowed. I don't know. A feeling from my youth that I really enjoyed was becoming an Eagle Scout because it meant a lot to me growing up in a scout troop that was really serious about it. Like a lot of Boy Scout troops get rightfully derided for being merit badge farms. They're not really teaching the skills, they're more or less getting you through what it takes to tick the boxes. And it's not really edifying, it's not building something in you as a young person. And my troop, I was fortunate enough that the closest troop to me was actually off of the local air base. So I was going there on a weekly basis for, troop meetings with people whose, kids, all the other boys in the troop were Army brats or Air Force brats. And, the leadership was, most part, their dads. And yeah, they were a more merit based type of folk, if you could believe it. They were more interested in actually teaching those life skills. So, earning your way up through the ranks and actually getting up to Eagle, it's not common nationally among scouts anyway. But for those who graduate and actually have that level of skill that you could have if you're faithful to the program the whole way, I was really proud of that moment because I was still pretty young to get it, and I really just remember the moment I got handed the badge and the plaque because there's a lot of people that help you get it done in the last few months, and I was really appreciative. It really felt like something. It was I was the driver, but it was something that we all did to make this possible. For great moment there. How about you, Dagger?
Um, so in my late 20s, like 28, 29, I finally I was raised in a house where you were never enough. You need to always be better. You need to always strive to be better. And I'm not just talking about as a person. I'm talking about like financially, work wise. You're never enough, right? As a man, you're never enough. You're only what you can provide. This, that, and the other thing. And I think the most, outside of the obvious, top 10, 15 moments in my life, I think one of the moments that gave me the most clarity and the most I remember it like I don't want to say vividly, but I remember the moment that it kind of clicked that I am enough. I don't have to chase other people's versions of who or what I should be because I have, you know, I have my own resume. I'm not talking about a work resume, but I have my own resume. I've shown mastery over hobbies. I have self-educated to the point where I have multiple degrees. I have been, educated, all these things. You get what I'm saying? Like all these things where it's like, I don't need other people to tell me what I'm worth. And
Yeah.
kind of like finally breaking out of that, like, I need to be better than this person or better than that person, or I need to live up to these expectations that these people have for me. And it's like, I'm living a pretty good life myself. I don't know why I'm comparing my life to other people's because all that does is like make my accomplishments worth less.
Yeah, that's a
Um,
great life lesson that too many people take too long getting to.
mhm. So I would say that because otherwise everything else is just like the shit you listed.
Oh no, I think that's fair. No, it's a
um,
good one. I like that. TJ, how about you?
Great moment in life. So what I would choose is we've talked about the past and everything I've done, my wife included, and we've gone together. But for us, easy enough. The biggest thing was when we signed the dotted line on actually purchasing our house. Was probably one of the biggest ones.
No doubt.
that's a
Understanding
good one.
that where I come from literally obliterated my credit, uh, bad things coming across, scraping things together. To be able to do that was a pretty highlight in life. And we're talking bankruptcies and everything else. So anyway, getting past all
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
that was
yeah.
probably the biggest great point for me was when we got this on the dotted line, it was ours. And then everything that came from that was years of digging out of a hole that I would recommend to nobody.
Oh, good on you.
That's
That's
fantastic.
tough, especially in our working lifetime with the swings in the economy. Good on you. All right, Fatal. How about you? How do you take on this question? Let me repeat that. What is a moment in your life that you are proud of? Sans children and kittens. So specifically targeting you.
I'll maybe go a little bit more for funsies with this one.
Sure.
I was on a bad soccer team in high school. We were very, very bad. But I discovered a incredible secret, which is if you are the goalie of a bad soccer team, you just unlock an entirely new sport that you didn't know existed. It's actually like incredibly fun. At one point, the coach was like kind of berating the team, and they had been keeping score and track of stats, and I had 50 saves and a half. And the mercy rule applied. So, to be clear, we weren't going to win, but my personal competition was to make the match drag out as long as possible to prevent the mercy rule. And so, yeah, at one point I got nominated for All-State for my impressive stats. Didn't hear back past that. I don't know if they just like figured out the gig that like, oh, this dude's team sucks. Which I still feel like maybe, I don't know, if the team sucks, but I can do the goalkeeping, maybe that's fine. But anyway, no, it was just like pretty much averaging like 100 saves in a full football matches. Not serious to life, but it's still fun to think about just because, good God, man. Goalkeeping is simultaneously incredibly boring in any other context, but in this, you're just like fucking fighting for your life. You have like no backup. 5 people are trying to score on you, and like that was like a cool like gauntlet to go through of like you have nobody to depend on except for yourself, and like it ran me through the gamut of like blaming teammates. Like, why the fuck would you blame your teammates? You already know what you signed up for, so like just work on improving yourself. At any number of the like personal journey angles, it was kind of all there. And so going from not knowing what I was doing to actually like basically holding the match together in one piece was very cool. I enjoyed that a lot.
Yeah, I definitely I grew up in Minnesota, so playing hockey, I definitely remember there were some bad teams I was on where my buddy who was the goalie was like, "That's cool, guys. Hop on my backpack. Hop in the backpack. Let's go."
Mhm, mhm. Well, thank you for
Yeah, so
sharing
I
that.
definitely
Sorry.
yeah, that's awesome. So they that must have provided a lot of your mental toughness as well at a young age in high
Mm,
school.
mm,
That's an awesome story.
yeah. So I see Sasha has
Man,
joined us again, and we're in patron questions, Sasha. We're pretty late in that segment there, but we've got a good one here for you. Get in your take about this. A lot of game related questions, so we got a real life one here at last. Is what is a moment in your life that you are proud of, excluding children and kittens? In your answer.
Excluding children and kittens. Wow, great question. Yeah, I'll I'll go back. There's one moment that sticks out to me. I spent a long time, like over a decade or about a decade of my life, building an organization. Uh, it was work, but it was like building up an organization, um, working with, hiring, developing a lot of folks, and when it came time for me to kind of step back and leave after a long period and throwing myself into it for a long time, um, I had a, 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 there was just a nice sort of like surprise gathering of folks that I go back and I look so fondly on that moment with pride because I had um, a sense. It was one of those like when you're kind of done with something, and then when I was in the thick of it, I probably didn't appreciate it, but I was just really proud that I had spent so much time and effort over a decade, like building, trying to do something, and then those like the relationships that I built over that time. My pride really comes from when I left. I think I understood that I had a positive impact on a good amount of people, and that meant a lot to me. Like, I go back and I know it still resonates with me personally that, like, you spend a lot of time on something or whatever, you pursue it, you don't always necessarily know the impact. And I'm really proud of a moment where I had a chance, like, kind of at an end, and it doesn't always happen like this with organizations or activities, but it was like kind of a capstone end of a chapter for me, a really important one for me. And it was just I was super proud of um, just the relationships that I built walking out of that. So that sense of, like, putting myself into something for a long period of time, getting to know a lot of people from it, and then having a sense of the positive impact that I had. And that still to this day means a lot to me. So it's like one goofy kind of memory, but it's like a goodbye party or like me leaving, and it meant a lot to me. I'm just sort of proud of that impact. On people. So it's that sense of, spending a decade of my life with something and realizing it had a positive impression on others.
All right, that's a good one. I appreciate you sharing that. Yeah, we had a few good shares there, so that's a good one to end that. Guys, we have made it all the way to the end. There were a couple other questions. Sorry to the patrons we didn't cover every last question, but we do our best here. But it's we're just over 2 hours now of the show, and it's the right time to wrap things up. So here we are, takeaways and final thoughts. Yeah, I mean, we were pretty exhaustive here and thinking about everything we're looking at for the first week. I'm still thinking that Lord Vader, given that let's say that these bugs are not fixed, or these exploits, however you want to look at it, are not fixed here for this first week, I am thinking that Lord Vader is going to be either in the back or up top. I'm not gaining a lot by letting them take it out with something lesser on the bottom front. Aside from that, I'm going to check out. I'm going to look at my board from last season and see what Datacrons I have to replace, and let that kind of guide what I'm going to fill back in on defense. Aside from that, I'm just going to play it by ear. TJ, I would go off to Dagger, but Dagger did have to jump. He has a family affair to head on off to, so we appreciate Dagger for joining us as long as he could. His final thoughts are: he hates my hat. I can go screw myself. Something else. Did I do a good job, guys? Did I sum him up?
He added hair plugs on the last one, so just come on that. I think we're good.
Okay.
So
Okay.
in other words, it's the same as his opening thoughts, which are the same as
it's
his
always the
previous
same.
closing
Yes.
thoughts, which is the same as previous.
Yeah, I didn't want us to underrepresent his opinion.
No.
Fair enough. So that brings us to you then, TJ. Your takeaways, your final thoughts. What do you got for the folks at home before we wrap it up?
I think with everybody, just to hope it gets fixed with the LV stuff. But other than that, I'm pretty sure it's going to be the same thing. I'll be excited to see if we're going to have a much more fun season of 5. Like, I honestly think 5 last season was pretty good. And I'm kind of leaning on, hopefully we'll see another fun season of 5, seeing some other things come through based on, I'll call it the new set. This is the first time we're seeing it in 5s out in the wild. So be excited to see how that's going to work. If, maybe we're going to see some fun Jocasta new stuff, because now we'll have a full set of 5s. So those are kind of where I'm leaning on right now.
Fair. Sasha, how about you? Your takeaways, your final thoughts.
Well, I am getting a gentle reintroduction to 5s with an Erodium in first round, which I probably need this time, because I hadn't really pivoted my thinking back to 5s. And what I'm thinking is and going back to, I know I dropped off for a long period there, but when we were talking about sort of the benefits of leaning more into defense and trying to not leave a bunch on the table you don't need offensively. I think for me, one of the things I like to do is then try and find little bits and pieces of offensive teams that were marginal and maybe not needed, that I can bring into defensive squads to bolster them. So I think that's part of what I'll look to try and do a little bit of in week one. And because Dagger's not here, I'll add this. TJ's often good about this too, but I'll say I'm going to try and do a better job the next day or two, at least, to make sure next couple of days is make sure I'm following the content creators, because I don't have a great match round one, but I am going to watch and learn from Tass, from Fatal, from Calvin, from Xerath, from anybody out there that streams, because that's how I'm going to get my re-intro into fives. So I think it's Dagger that says they fail so that you don't have to. You guys don't always fail, but sometimes if you do, we still get to learn those lessons. That's the benefit of the community. So thank you, guys.
Our pleasure, no doubt. Which brings us, of course, to Fatal. What do you have for the folks at home to close us out?
I don't know. Hope for the best. Just not necessarily prepared for the worst, but prepared for anything. Set 21 has a uncanny habit of making things that seem cool a little bit less. But yeah, I don't know. Hopefully it's a messy week one. Hopefully just a lot of weird shit happens. I think that's what I'm hoping for, what I'm looking forward to. And yeah, twitch.tv/PlaybookTV.
Where you'll find him. All right. Well, appreciate that, Fatal. And thank you to my co-host here for hanging with us to the end of the show. I'm going to go ahead and do the wrap up. So thanks, guys, for sticking it out this long. Of course, if you are used to catching me live, then you already know that you can find me at twitch.tv/Tassinix. I also simulcast my matches live on YouTube, which is at Tassinix Gaming. If you haven't checked out my YouTube channel, you should, because in addition to my Grand Arena streams, I have some other Slugger-related content that you may be interested in, not the least of which includes my Datacron set guides on set 20 and 21 right now. I make those with Aesop Rock, one of the very best players to ever do it. Got the mod guides on characters and factions that you've asked about, the how-to mod guide series, whole bunch of other odds and ends there. You might check it out. It's also, of course, a rebroadcasting point for this very podcast, Plotting and Scheming, which is, of course, native to Spotify. But wherever you find an episode, check the description. There is a link that you can plug into your preferred podcast program and follow us there. Appreciate that. I do check the comments on Spotify, too. We actually had our first comment there the other day, so appreciate that that person for reaching out. It was good interacting there, but I'm always checking the comments wherever you guys interact. You, Spotify. I'm looking. But regardless, any of the content you're enjoying on the YouTube, please do give it a like if you enjoyed, and hit subscribe if you want to see more from the channel. Always appreciate that. If you want to go above and beyond that call of duty and support the channel further, there are a few ways. I do have a Cash App that is $Tassinix. I have a PayPal that is tassinix@gmail.com. And of course, if you want to get some improved scouting power for your own Grand Arena game, early access to some of my content, and a couple other fringe benefits, you might consider joining my Patreon, patreon.com/Tassinix. For any upwardly mobile Grand Arena player, there is something there of interest for you. At $5 a month, you enter the Tass House at VIP access level, where you get early access to the Plotting and Scheming show. That is coming out to our general audience 8 a.m. Friday mornings, but my patrons are getting it as early as Tuesday night, within hours of us recording. So you've got that edge going into the first round of the week. You also get early access to the Datacron set guides, a couple other odds and end videos that I might make from time to time. And of course, dedicated text and voice chat on Discord, where you can usually find me lurking. So pop on in and say hi. Thank you so much to Andrew, Banja, Deadpool Cow 28, JJ's Productions Twitch, Jobin4527, Miasmo, Mus Ross, Raise Malbus, Sam Vimes, Sheepdog 47, Squed, Stark Strategy Gamer, Sweens 14, and White Wolf. Moving on up to the $10 a month tier is VIP Access Plus, where you have the bundled option. You get Patreon with me, and you get your choice of either OmegaBot or Hot Utils Patreon. So if you go with OmegaBot, that is the tool I show at the start of every one of my Grand Arena streams. Gives you that powerful at a glance sense of your opponent's offensive and defensive tendencies with the graphs, in the charts and all of it. It is an amazing tool to quickly break down your opponent's preferences. And of course, anybody can use it for free to look at the last week of their opponent's history, but only patrons can build a custom report with any number of weeks. You get a downloadable HTML version of the report that you can click the links in, takes you right back into swugga.gg or Insight, helping you to further drill down on those counters you're interested in. Alternatively, you could take the Patreon access for Hot Utils, which is the #1 tool for your mass mod management and loadout creation. No other tool lets you switch between your Grand Arena, TB, TW, raid mods with just a couple of clicks. You can use it like TJ and Fatal do to comprehensively remod their roster on a weekly basis. You can use it to slice through a backlog of hundreds of mods in seconds, to say nothing of the TW functionality to help your guild. So, no wrong way to go at VIP Access Plus. Thank you so much to Dobby, Esh Sotnikam, Meow for Me, Loon, Jake23501, Single Malt Jedi, Snack Attack, Striker, and Trouble Fingers. Moving to VIP Access Premium, this is $15 a month for the Double Bot Bundle. So this gets you Patreon access to me, OmegaBot, and Hot Utils all in one sub. I don't think you could actually buy it for cheaper out on the wild market, so that's why many have said this is the greatest value bundle in all of Swugga. Thank you so much to Argots, Arj, Big Ninja, Duckstab, Darth Link, Dark Hug, Frick Frack Paddywhack, General Milan, Ivanek, Johnny B. Ottawa, Kev, Mini GK, Hills, Quig, Saldag, Sir Boss, Sophus, The Lost Womprat, Wilco, and Zoltre. At the top of the list, in Jester's Club Elite, the one, the only Nomad's Reaper. This madman pops into stream from time to time, drops hundreds of subs, thousands of biddies. He's done it many times over the years, so thank you so much, my man, for the incredible support. And of course, last but never least, our special thanks first to Yoda Force, one of my original supporters, bought me the mic I'm speaking to you on right now, and even though he has long since quit the game, we wish him well from the other side. To Mrs. T, my wife, whether it be furnishing me with alcohol or coffee, food as needed if the streams go long, or just keeping our daughter from tearing apart our home while I'm trying to be halfway decent at a phone game, appreciate you. And of course, to Dagger, TJ, Sasha Aisha, and Fatal, my co-hosts here on Plotting and Scheming. Gentlemen, as always, it's a pleasure and a privilege to record our show together. Every week I'm learning from you. Hopefully the feeling is occasionally mutual, but regardless, our community gets a ton out of this show. Lots of discussion, engagement, questions. And you guys are a huge part of what makes, the conversation robust, interesting, popping with fresh ideas. So thank you guys for making yourselves available despite your busy work and family schedules now for these 2+ years that the show has been running. Thank you guys so much. All right, we come back over to the main scene to wrap things up. Not having great expectations for Dabba, Boba, or Sidious on offense this season. So I'm not really looking forward to anything cheap and easy. I think it's going to be mostly a high wire act of who can lose the least banners, but we'll see what kind of interesting defenses can show up here in this next week. Until our next episode, or until my next stream, whichever you show up to. It's been real. It's been awesome. Been real awesome. Take care.